o'clock, and it's time to get this party started, this meeting going. Deb, would you please do roll call?
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Here.
Counselor Purser,
Here.
Counselor Parrish,
Here.
Counselor Quigley, Counselor Miller.
Great. Next, I'm going to invite everybody to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We have one proclamation today, proclaiming May 26, 2025. Oh, sorry. Thank you. I'm just ready for the proclamation. Deb, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda, Mr. Mayor.
All right, with that, can I get a motion?
To approve?
Second.
All right, Deb?
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley, and Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Now I'm really excited that we're moving into proclamations and presentation. Amanda, if you would read the proclamation for Monday, May 26, 2025 as observance of Memorial Day.
Okay, whereas Memorial Day each year serves as a solemn reminder of the scourge of war and its bitter aftermath of sorrow. And whereas the Congress in a joint resolution approved May 11th, 1950, provided that Memorial Day should be set aside as a day of prayer for permanent peace. And whereas today and every day, let us remember the servicemen and women we have lost, and let us honor them by rededicating ourselves to strengthening our nation's promise. With love, grace, and reflection, let us honor our fallen fellow Americans, known and unknown, who sacrificed their freedom to ensure our own. And whereas the citizens of the city of Fruita desire to honor and acknowledge those who serve in uniform for their sacrifice and preservation of our American way of life. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Fruita City Council hereby proclaims Monday, May 26, 2025 as observance of Memorial Day in the city of Fruita, and urges all citizens of this community to honor those who have served and who are serving today.
Thank you. Now, my understanding is John McKee, Sergeant of Arms for American Legion Post 2006, is here to accept. Would you like to come up and say a few words?
And we'll
Yeah, we'll do a picture afterwards with all of council. You don't get out of it without a picture.
Okay. I want to thank you all so much for this proclamation and for partnering with us in this Memorial Day, and for also honoring all the fallen that Memorial Day represents. And with that, I would like to invite you and all the other in this room to help us on the 23rd at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll be planting American flags on all of the graves of the veterans at Elmwood Cemetery. And also on the 26th, we'll have a Memorial Day ceremony there at Elmwood. And you're certainly all invited and all here. And again, I thank you for your partnership and for all the things we've done over the years together with the city.
Don, thank you for
Thank
all that
you.
you do. Now it's picture, come on up, picture time, and get the official paperwork. Yeah, we'll come around to you. Thank you very much. All right, next up is public participation. This portion of our meeting is set aside for the city council to listen to comments from the public about items not on tonight's agenda or items that appear on the consent agenda. Excuse me. Consent agenda items are those for which all conditions or requirements have already been met, and they are typically approved with a single motion without separate discussion. We welcome and value your input to help maintain a welcoming, respectful, and productive environment. We ask that there be no clapping, cheering, booing, jeering, or sign holding. This helps ensure that everyone, regardless of their viewpoint, feels comfortable sharing their thoughts. Each speaker will have 3 minutes, and we will ask that you begin by stating your full name and address for the record. If you have materials you'd like to share with council, please hand them over to Deputy City Clerk, Deb Woods, so that they can be entered into the public record and distributed appropriately. While council will not respond during this portion of the meeting, please know that we are listening and we appreciate you taking the time to participate in this important process. So with that, I'd like to open up the floor. If there's anybody that would like to come up and make comments on anything that's on the agenda or on the consent agenda.
Hi, Tessa Bynum, 255 North Ash Street. I stand before you today as the first college graduate in my entire family. So,
We're allowed to.
We're making it exception.
so I am back again to talk to you about the importance of plain language, especially in the model traffic code that is on the consent agenda for today. So Colorado's legislation often references the plain language or the Plain Writing Act of 2010, where it's defined plain language as writing that is clear, concise, well organized, and follows the best practices appropriate to the subject or field and its intended audience. Our court systems in Colorado adhere to the principle as well, as does our General Assembly. There is legislation in place that ensures that early childhood services, healthcare bills, and notifications for healthcare are written in plain language as well. One of the greatest advocates for plain language is a lawyer, professor, and a world-renowned speaker and author. He's been advocating for plain language since before I was born. The changes made in our state and federal government can be tied directly to his work. And someday I hope you'll all realize how important it is. So I'm gonna leave you with this quote. If you want me to speak for an hour, I'm ready to do it right now. If you want me to speak for 5 minutes, I'll need 2 weeks to prepare. Thank you.
Thanks, Tess.
Gentlemen, you want to come on up?
How y'all doing today?
Good.
Got a few things I need to bring up with y'all. I'm
You
Benny
please-
Wilson,
Thank you.
Benny Wilson. I'm from Mac, Colorado, 1509 Baxter Street. We got a YouTube channel I put out news on too. And I seen that intersection in city here, Fremont Street and J Road. I noticed there were some signs sitting on the street that said no left turn. And I started investigating what the signs were and what was going on there. And I noticed they're trying to keep the traffic from building up down at the high school down there. And I understand why they're doing it. But for people to make a left-hand turn, they got to go all the way down to 19th Street and up to K Road. But they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're going straight across J Road on Fremont Street to the dead end, and they turn into a little subdivision. It's called Wildcat Ranch, okay? And they're driving through that subdivision down, I think it is Wildcat Street. They turn left on Cougar Way and come right back up to J Road. They're at the middle school. They make a right-hand turn and they're just going down where the congestion is. And I think it's not right to be pushing all that traffic up into that little subdivision. We need to figure out another way to fix the congestion, because right now it's just a lot of cars going into that little subdivision, bringing down their property value because of all the cars. We move into our subdivisions to be quiet, nice neighborhoods, and they're sending all these cars twice a day through the school's year. I think maybe if we might think about putting a light down on Pinion and J Road, a three-way light. During school season, maybe leave the green a little bit longer so they can go around and then change and run it this way. But right now, all that's happening is we're sending cars up into this little subdivision. I don't think that's right. So I asked the city if we could look at this problem and see about fixing it a different way and not let all them cars go into the subdivision. I thank y'all, and that's the only thing I have problem with. I appreciate it. My name is The New Normal Audit. Please subscribe, like, and share. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak?
My name is Jesse Meese. My home address is 1279 Henry's Lane. I live in Loma. I also own Monument Powder Coating, 1596 Sapola. Just kind of wanted to get back into what the city's been doing. I was on a board with Janine for about 10 years. And during that time, we kind of had ethos. And I got the job of being the guy that everybody had to, I had to remind everybody of the consequences of the decisions that we were making. And that ethos is don't turn us into Moab. And I don't know if that's still something you guys talk about or if it's part of the decision-making process. You guys have a lot of new and interesting things that are happening. We all moved here because it's a beautiful little town, and let's keep it that way. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak? All right, not seeing anybody, I'm going to go ahead and close public participation. And with that, we need to go into the consent agenda. Sorry, I'm a little, so we've got 5 things on the consent agenda. First, are there any changes?
No, there are not, Mr. Mayor.
With that, does anybody have any questions or like to discuss anything on the consent? All right, seeing none.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that. We have a first and a second. Any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none. Deb?
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley, Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Great. I would like to point out that the Jessica Ruffel, is that pronouncing that correct? Thank you. To the Planning Commission as an alternate, and then Joanne Christensen to the Livability Commission. Thank you for everybody for stepping up and being willing to help out and serve. Greatly, greatly appreciated. All right, with that, we're moving into public hearing and action items, of which we have, we need to, is our attorney on? Is Mary Elizabeth online?
She is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. So with that, we need a motion to open up a Fruita Housing Authority. Do I have that correct?
That's correct. I apologize, by the way, my headset did not charge, so I hope you guys can all hear me. First off, if you could close the city council meeting temporarily, and then yes, make a motion to
But
open.
do we need to make a motion during council and then close it? Or close it and then make a motion?
Close it and then make a motion to go into the Fruita Housing Authority.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the time is 7:14. We're going to go ahead and close this section of the council meeting. And with that, we're going to move into the Fruita Housing Authority meeting. So we're going to switch our hats, move into the Housing Authority. So with that, Deb, would you kindly call order? I'm sorry, time is now 7:15. And we're going to open up the Housing Authority meeting. You do a roll call, correct?
I would prefer a motion to, I'm sorry if that wasn't clear, a motion from council to, motion to go into the meeting.
Closed.
But
It's
we
closed, you're
already
right,
closed.
you're right. So I guess you are wearing your hat now.
Yes.
You're correct. Thank you.
All right, so we're now wearing our Housing Authority hat. It's now 7:15. calling the Housing Authority meeting officially open. Deb, would you please poll commissioners?
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Hansi,
Here.
Commissioner Purser,
Here.
Commissioner Parrish,
Here.
Commissioner Quigley, and Commissioner Miller.
Great. Thank you very much. We have one item on the agenda, resolution FHA 2025-03, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fruita Housing Authority approving the redevelopment, financing, and AMI restriction agreement, restrictive covenant agreement, and loan default agreement and assignment of rights under redevelopment agreement for the Oaks project. Easy to say. Dalton Kelly, Special Counsel to the Housing Authority, is here to present. Dalton, you are up.
All right.
We love our microphone. Good luck, buddy.
Thank you very much. As you,
Yes, it heals me every time.
as you stated, the resolution before you tonight would approve 3 agreements. And what this really is the next step for the Oaks project. As you may recall, on December 17th, 2024, the city council approved a term sheet with the Oaks, for the Oaks project, a term sheet with Headwaters Housing Partners, which set forth the terms for negotiating a redevelopment agreement. We're here tonight with that redevelopment agreement and 2 collateral agreements that are required by and part of the redevelopment agreement. And so we'll take each of those in turn, but it's the redevelopment agreement, the restrictive covenant agreement, and then the loan refault and assignment of rights agreement. As far as the redevelopment agreement goes, in accordance with the term sheet, what is contemplated is, and the rights and responsibilities under the redevelopment agreement are that 805 Otley Avenue LLC, which is the LLC that was set up by Headwaters to be the single purpose entity to own and carry out this project. They will redevelop the 62 units of the former Family Health West property into multifamily rental residential. In accordance with the term sheet, those units, all 62 are going to be restricted to 100% AMI or less. As you recall, this board, the Fruita Housing Authority Board, on February 4th of this year, approved a $4,000 forgivable loan so that they could acquire the Family Health West property. That was the first contribution of the total $800,000 to get all 62 units restricted to 100% AMI or less. And so if you look at page 56 of your packet, that is where the future contributions are set forth. So as was contemplated in the term sheet, there's cash infusions that are coming in the first couple of years to the project to help them achieve that 100% AMI rate. And so $400,000 is already in, and then it would be $200,000 for 2026, which would be delivered upon getting the certificate of occupancy, which is expected October 15, 2026. And then the next 2 are annually from there. The one for 2027 is anticipated to be 150,000. And then for 2028 is 50,000. As we discussed in the term sheet and is now baked into this agreement, you could always do all the contributions up front if you wanted. And so if you did $250,000 this year, you know, the fund had 250 in it, we're just going to make that appropriation. Then that would take care of 2026 and 2028. You would just be left with 2027 because it goes in reverse order. It is subject to appropriation. So at this point, the only thing that you have committed to put in is the money that's already in. You will be asked to make the appropriation later this year for next year. That's within the council's discretion. The consequence of not appropriating is ultimately this project is built to pencil at 62 units at 100% based off having these contributions. And so the way for it to still succeed is a certain amount of the units are rented at market rate if you don't make the annual appropriations. That page 56 of your packet shows those predetermined numbers. And so you're already halfway in. 31 of the units, in the event that you did not appropriate, 31 of the units are still restricted to 100% AMI. And then that continues to increase if you make more appropriations. To be clear, so long as you're making the appropriations, all 62 units are restricted the whole time. So we're starting out, all 62 units are restricted to 100% AMI. It's going forward, counting on these appropriations to basically make the cash flow work. But the only reason that it goes to market rate is if you don't make that appropriation outside of the occurrence of they're trying to rent in accordance with the use restriction and they can't find a tenant after reasonable efforts, and then eventually they have to rent it out. There's a couple of restrictions there. They can rent it out, but it has to still be for what the rental rate for 100% AMI would be. So we're still rent restricted, and the lease can't automatically renew, and it has to only be for 1 year. And so it's a way for them to, if they can't find a qualified tenant, somebody gets in the unit, we're using the housing that we have. But those are the two scenarios where these aren't rent restricted: is they can't find somebody, it's temporary, or the appropriations aren't made, and so they have the right then to for a certain amount of units, go to market rate. If you're not going to make an appropriation, there's basically two paths, and this starts dovetailing us into the restrictive covenant. And so since there's the ability for all 62 to be restricted, or we land in a situation where there's no more appropriations in 31, we're not recording the restrictive covenant until we know the final number. And so the redevelopment agreement is really your restrictive covenant until either all the appropriations are made, or you make the determination that we're not making an appropriation and we're not making any future ones, go record the restrictive covenant. At that point, it would reflect the reduced units. Otherwise, it will be recorded for all 62 units once that last 50,000 is in. If you do give them a notice that, hey, we're not making the appropriation this year, or it's something less because that's the money we have, but we anticipate making them in the future. At that point, then we're not recording the restrictive covenant yet. They are going to rent the units, that predetermined number for market rate. And then ultimately, when you make the appropriation, those units, once the leases end, go back to restricted. So it's kind of this flexibility to make sure that continues to work. As we talked about for the term sheet, hopefully you saw that was baked in. You have the ability to work on master leases, and then you bring those forward to 805 Otley and their lender. Ultimately, their construction lender has a lot of rights in here because they're the ones wanting to get paid back. And so, so long as we agree to the amount of that master lease, then we work with the lender and 805 Otley, and ultimately you have rights to set up master leases for this. We also talked about the future buy down of AMIs. And so right now they're all restricted to 100% or less. And that was based off a contribution of 800,000. There is a provision in here that allows you to do additional contributions in the future to bring those AMIs down even more. But the amount that's going to take is going to be a function of where their loan's at and a couple other things. And so really it's a little bit of a negotiation at that point, but we have the ability to buy them down in the future. We just can't necessarily say if you give, $100,000, you get units down to like 60 or something. So that will be worked out in the future, but you have the right to buy them down further if that's the need in the community. Another piece that's in here, which we had talked about on the front end, is the ability to preserve long-term affordability here by preventing a default. And so that's what the requirement for this loan default and assignment of rights agreement is ultimately that's what their lender required to give you that right. And so if they're about to have a payment default, you have the ability to make that payment default. So ultimately the loan's not going into default and they're not going into foreclosure. If you do make that payment, that is a loan to 805 Otley and you get paid subordinate to the construction loan. So ultimately it is a loan that you're getting back, but you have that ability to stop a default on their payment. The other piece is if you don't stop a default on their payment and then they're about to go into foreclosure, you have the right to purchase the loan out before it goes into foreclosure. That's kind of your last chance to get preserve the long-term affordability here if you want to take it. At that point, you have the right to purchase the loan from their lender basically by buying out what's outstanding. There's another piece in here that we've been negotiating with them a little bit on, and you'll see the final term is we're going to continue negotiating on it, and it's something that wasn't in the term sheet. But as we talked amongst ourselves, we felt like it was really important as we talked about the ability to maybe have a right to purchase in the future if we want long-term affordability, because the covenant runs for 30 years from CO, which is a good amount of time. But if we get to the end of 30 years, and they're starting to think about selling, having a right of first refusal so the city could purchase the property if they want to. They're not opposed to the idea. It's just more so, it's got to work with the terms of both. They've agreed with their investors and their lender, and so we're navigating all of that. And so there's a term in here that we're going to negotiate in good faith to get a right of first refusal on that. We expect to have that done before you'll be asked to do your next appropriation. But that's not necessary to move forward with the redevelopment agreement. It was something that we kind of brought up as a new term. So we said we can move forward with this, but we are going to negotiate that and have a right of first refusal. So that's where that term is. So to be clear, there's two right of first refusals. One we're still negotiating. The other one is already set up with the lender. The last piece I want to highlight in the redevelopment agreement, or two pieces, I guess. As far as the city's contributions, we've talked about future appropriations. Those have to be used on costs for the Oaks project or paying the loan. So that restriction is in there in case there's any question of what's our money going to. And there is also a provision for preference for local employees. And so they will have their tenant selection plan, but there's going to be a preference in that for people who meet the 100% of AMI or less, also work in Fruita 30 hours a week. And so while that's not a hard and fast restriction because we got to make sure units stay full, that is kind of the preference, the first preference on units. So then the restrictive covenant agreement I've touched on a little bit, that gets recorded after basically the redevelopment agreement is satisfied, and it carries forward the same terms on the affordability, tenant preference, those sort of things. So the restrictive covenant will get recorded after the redevelopment agreement is basically finished. It will run 30 years from certificate of occupancy. So if they achieve CO in 2026, it'll end in 2056, even though we're not recording it until maybe 2028, just to be clear. The restrictive covenant agreement is binding on all future people who live there. It's runs with the land, and it sets up the 100% AMI or less for all 62 units, unless we're in a situation when we didn't make an appropriation and we're not going to, and then it's that reduced amount. The tenant preference is still is carried forward to that restrictive covenant agreement. And I think that's the big pieces there. As far as the loan default agreement, gave a quick overview of that. Their lender wanted Headwaters' rights under the redevelopment agreement, and so those rights are assigned. That's pretty standard for banks. They take all rights you have in anything that's coming in if you're going into default. From the city's perspective, it doesn't matter one way or the other because you either make an appropriation or you don't. So if I make an appropriation, the bank gets it, then we chose to make that appropriation or we didn't. So that assignment really doesn't do a whole lot there. But the big piece on that agreement is it does give you that ability to step in for payment defaults or step in and buy before it goes to foreclosure. So that's the nuts and bolts of that agreement. So the resolution before you would approve those three agreements in substantially the form before you. There can be small tweaks, cleanups, but nothing substantial can change. Otherwise, it would be back before this board. We do think we pretty much have it buttoned up. There was a couple questions about recording the redevelopment agreement versus memorandum, this or that. So that final term will be reflected, but it's not going to be anything material. Or it will be back before you. So what you're looking at is essentially the final, subject to maybe a couple cleanups. So with that, I'll start taking questions.
All right, thank you very much.
I don't have any questions, but I just want to say I love how this ended up like being structured and the flexibility it gives us to tweak it, to our community's specific needs. Because, as we know, things can change really quickly, and this will give us the ability to kind of adapt to that. And I think that's just super cool. It's really, really handy tool. Thank you for all the work on that.
Rich?
No, second Amy's.
This looks great. I am misremembering, I think. I had thought if we had decided to go all the way up to 800,000, that would be, to 80% to 100%.
That was 1.2 million.
Okay, thank you. I'm not remembering this correctly. So yeah, that the 1.2 is what would do that.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh,
Everything else is amazing.
But we do have the ability
To do
Right,
that,
that
yes,
later,
yes,
like that-
yes,
that's
yes,
what's so nice.
like
Yeah.
I said, we can actually go out and look for partners
yeah.
that might want to be
Yeah.
involved with this. So I do
Yeah.
appreciate how that's written.
Yeah.
Aaron,
Thank you for all your work on this project. I think it'll be great for our community. I do have a handful of questions, and hopefully I'll get them in the right ones for the housing authority versus the one to go back to city council meeting. When it comes to the funds to pay this ultimate $800,000, is the process that city council approves it to go to the housing authority budget, and the housing authority is paying these fees, or does it go straight from city council to the Oaks?
Ultimately, that's in your discretion. The way we did the first one was an appropriation from the city council to the housing authority, and then the housing authority made the loan. And part of that was starting to compartmentalize, like, okay, we're doing this through the housing for housing versus city council. But each entity has the right to do it themselves. Ultimately, right now, the city council is the one holding the money. And so it could either come straight from the city council, or if they give it to this board, you would then appropriate it to, as the contribution end.
And so currently we're the only buy down partners in this relationship. We haven't found any others, like the mayor was saying, that to help
Correct,
buy
yeah.
down further.
Yeah, it's just the city. If you did a master lease in the future, so if a local employer said, hey, we want to come do a master lease, and then we're going to offer them to our employees at 80, we'd figure out what that master lease amount needs to be for whatever units they need, and subject to agreement with 805 Otley and their bank. That lease would get executed, and then that's kind of their buy down for their units. That's how that master lease would work with an additional partner. And that's kind of the way I see like another partner coming in, is probably it'd be a master lease, want something for their employees. If somebody just wanted to give you a contribution, then it would be that other buy down mechanism, where if we gave you another $400,000, how many units does that take us to 80 would be the question.
So what's the mechanism to make sure that they're following through on these agreements and contracts?
So we have enforcement rights under the redevelopment agreement while that's dictating. And then ultimately the housing authority has the enforcement rights under the restrictive covenant. And so as far as, and this is one that the housing authority has the right to inspect books, records. You could also inspect units if that was necessary, to see if somebody's actually the qualified applicant's living there, or the qualified person. And so you have inspection rights, and your enforcement rights are under the restrictive covenant. And essentially you have equitable relief that you would go for an action to a court to make them to enforce a remedy on it.
So staff, we'll be establishing policies and procedures around that once things settle down, or I guess not settle down, but we get to that point to where we can enforce it, but that will be ready.
And sorry, on
no,
that.
go for it.
piece, I neglected to mention, while the city's giving contributions, and this was something we had in the term sheet, they're required to give you a presentation, an annual report, how things are going. And then they're otherwise required to, submit an annual report. And let me see if I can find that. If not, we will make sure that's in there, because that was something in the term sheet, was part of our accountability piece.
Last one's just a statement of thank you for making sure that we have the first right of refusal to those, to the whole project if they ever do sell it. I think it's great to have that asset or that ability to do that. So thank you.
And on that reporting piece, it's page 60 of your packet, number 7. They have to come do that annual report each year that you're doing a contribution. Otherwise, they have to submit a written report. And so that's kind of the formalistic thing built in now. And I'm sure if staff's going to have additional oversight on making sure there's compliance, those processes can be built, but there's at least that piece right now where they have to come forward and tell you how things are going.
Think
Anything else?
that's it for housing authority questions.
Thank you. James?
I was just gonna talk about the report stuff too, and you touched on it, so that was my concerns.
Couple quick questions. The tenant selection plan is part of the covenant agreement and the right of first refusal on the 30 years. Does the housing authority refuse, do we have to vote and approve that? Or is that handled by the developer? I should probably break that into two questions, which is the tenant selection plan. Is that completely done by the developer or does the housing authority get to review?
So under the development agreement, and this is page 60 of your packet, number 11, the company has to submit the tenant selection plan to the authority each year for approval. And so that in that same provisions in the restrictive covenant. And so that tenant selection plan is made by the developer, but then comes to the housing authority for approval. And then on the right of first refusal, are you referring to the one with the bank on the foreclosure?
No, on the 30-year?
Oh, on the
Do we
30
have to, authority have to approve that?
Yeah, we'll bring whatever because it's essentially going to be a side agreement on the right of first refusal. That'll come back before the authority for approval when we arrive at terms of what those conditions are going to be for the right of first refusal. And then on the other right of first refusal, the way that one works is bank gives you notice that they're going into default. You guys would give notice back that, hey, we're interested in buying the loan. And then ultimately we're working on timelines because they had 20 days and we said, this is a governmental entity. How do you think that's happening in 20 days? So there'll be more time for that, but that's how that one operates. But the one for the buy down after 30 years, that'll be a kind of a side agreement that will come back before you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And-
And
Mayor, sorry, I just wanted to, I think, follow up on one question, your question about the tenant selection. To be clear, they're going to present to the authority their plan, but the authority will not be involved in reviewing applications or selecting tenants.
you'll have to let the mayor know that in the next meeting.
Excuse me, Chair. Sorry. Thank you very much.
So rarely do I get to ever call you on anything. So I'm just enjoying the moment. I appreciate the default agreement. I actually had to sketch that out and draw a diagram to make sure I understood it. But it all made sense once I drew it out. On these things, sometimes I find it helpful literally to do that. I don't know about you guys, just to kind of follow along with what entity. Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, now's the moment of truth.
Mayor, I move to approve FHA Resolution 2025-03, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fruita Housing Authority approving the redevelopment, financing, and AMI restriction agreement, restrictive covenant agreement, and loan default agreement, and assignment of rights under the redevelopment agreement for the Oaks project.
Second.
First and a second. All right, bring it back. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns before we take a vote? Would you kindly poll commissioners?
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Hansi, Commissioner Purser, Commissioner Parrish,
Yes.
Commissioner Quigley, and Commissioner Miller.
Affirmative.
Motion passes 6-0.
Great, so the time is now 7:39 and we're going to officially close the Housing Authority meeting. And now the time is officially 7:39 and we're going to reopen City Council member. None of the council members have left, so we're all here. So with that, we're going to move into the administrative agenda, which is Resolution 2025-17, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita approving the redevelopment, financing, and AMI restriction agreement and loan default agreement and assignment of rights under redevelopment agreement of the Oaks project. Dalton, guess what? You're up.
Awesome. Well, since we just covered it in the Board of Commissioners meeting, I won't go over the details again unless you would like me to, but I am available for questions.
That bring it back to council. Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah. So the original 400,000, that was in our budget, correct? So we're not going to see any additional budget amendments.
Yeah, the initial contribution, the 400,000 is included in the 2025 budget. 325 of which is from a lodging tax that we receive for economic development and housing purposes. So that's fund balance that the Economic Development Fund has accumulated over the past 4 years since it took effect in 2021. And then 75,000 was from leftover American Rescue Plan funds, which were kind of the second set of payments that local governments received from the COVID pandemic. So that makes up the 400. In future years, we anticipate with how our lodging tax does, in total, we have a 6% lodging tax, so 3 of which goes to marketing and promotion, and the other 3 is generally split between our public places fund and our economic development fund. We'll be able to pay for those contributions just solely from that lodging tax. So no general fund dollars, no dollars you'd use for police, streets, roads, bridges, et cetera, just those that are paid on short-term lodging in Fruita.
So what have we used those funds in the past for that we were going to per se be foregoing so we can do this project?
The American Rescue Plan funds, to start with the federal funds, they have a variety of different uses that we've used them for, mostly projects to help with our sewer fund. So there are several allowable uses, but water treatment was one of them. The economic development, it is kind of a newer source of revenue. So we have had some minor projects associated with that. Right now, that helps pay for our contribution to the Grand Junction Economic Partnership each year. It splits the cost of the facade of the co-op grain tower at $12,000 a year. So really anything related to economic development or housing as is allowed in the ballot language that was approved by Fruita voters.
So it's been able to grow over the years. We've had it reserved so we can use that as a big chunk today. And we do feel that we'll have future revenue sources through that lodging tax for that half, that we can continue to support the remaining 400,000 at the prescribed payment plan.
Yeah, as of right now, I would definitely agree with that. We, especially in our lodging tax, we've budgeted pretty conservatively because after 2020, we didn't really know what to expect as far as people traveling. So we've accumulated quite a bit of fund balance, not just in the Economic Development Fund, but our marketing and promotion as well, just because our revenues have exceeded our projections, but also our expenses were lower than we anticipated. So as of right now, over the past couple of years, we've received roughly about 200,000 in lodging tax dollars for just the 3%, so 400 total. So we think if there is going to be a contribution of 100,000 or 50,000 or 200,000, we'll be able to use those dollars that are derived from that short-term lodging.
Thank you.
Of course.
James?
I think we've talked about this before, but I just want to bring it back up. This goes towards our total amount of affordable housing that the state is mandating, correct?
The Prop 123.
Yeah.
The Prop 123 does not go towards our number count since it's 100% of AMI.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
80% of AMI.
If there are ones in this that say they end up picking someone and they're at 80 or low, then it would count, wouldn't it?
That is correct.
Okay.
And we would have the annual compliance to be able to support that claim.
Perfect. That's it for me.
Okay. Well.
Move to approve resolution 2025-17, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fruita approving the redevelopment, financing, and AMI restriction agreement, owned bulk agreement, and assignment of rights under redevelopment agreements for the Oaks project.
Second.
We have a first and a second, last chance. Any questions or comments?
I just have one thing real quick before I vote. I just want to point out that we started working on this project in June of 24. And, I haven't been a part of, hundreds of affordable or attainable housing developments or projects, but this is probably the fastest one that I've ever seen. And so, this project's not like just still in a theoretical space. Like they have a building permit submitted, like they're ready to close on their commercial loan. And so I think that when it comes to like delivering products to the market that are for our residents and for our employees, I think that this definitely sticks a big flag in the ground that we can do it on our own with the private sector. We don't need necessarily all these other state and federal sources to do so. So credit to council, credit to Dalton, credit to our developer, but this is pretty much lightning speed and it's to the benefit of the residents. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you.
Also, do you want to say, Family Health West has been a partner on this, and they should be acknowledged as well, just because they did not, I think they could have received more money for that piece of property. So I would like to acknowledge their contribution as well.
And they stuck with us for like the extended closing.
Yes. All right. Any other questions or comments? Deb?
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley, Counselor Miller, Counselor Williams,
Yes.
and Counselor Hansi.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you as always, Dalton. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and move into the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. First things first, we did order one of these nice microphone stands for the podium. So
Just do it.
we literally just did it. I'm really good at checking my notes after council meetings, but I didn't write that one down. But we just did. So this is most likely the last meeting where we'll have the flimsy mic. So it's on its way, which is good. Just a few quick updates. So the community survey is set to close at the end of this week. We've received over 700 responses. So we're going to put out one more kind of public service announcement on our social media channels to encourage people to participate in the survey if they haven't already. And then ETC will start compiling the responses next week. And then we'll probably present to the council in June or July, whenever works best for that. So great response rate. They're very happy with that. This is more than they often receive, and they do surveys all over the country. So I think it speaks volumes to how invested and definitely how involved our Fruita community is. So it's great. Fruitasurvey.org. If anyone has not taken it yet, I would definitely encourage participation.
How many did we get last time we did the survey?
Oh, I think I can get that number for you right after this. I think we're trending just a tad lower, but I'll double check. I want to say, yeah, I'll get that in 1 second during council reports and actions. Yep. Another thing that we're going to put on an upcoming city council meeting is a kickoff with our consultant for our housing needs assessment. So as part of our strategic plan, but also in our budget, this year, the council approved $50,000 to be used for an updated housing needs assessment to determine where the gaps are in our housing and what we need to build into the future to make sure that we're hitting all of these families and residents and giving them a place to potentially live in Fruita. So we just selected the consultant. They'll probably come to a kickoff here in June or July with council, and then we'll kick off a variety of public engagement and community engagement events as part of that as well. Also good news on that front. So we budgeted $50,000. We just received notice that we received a grant from the Colorado Department of Local Affairs for $50,000. So that will allow us to reduce the city's contribution for the housing needs assessment, but also potentially expand scope as well, which is great. So offset some of our cost. Few other things. Friday night of the Mike the Headless Chicken Festival, which is a week from this weekend. Great Outdoors Colorado will be here to present the city with the Starburst Award for excellence in use of lottery funds for the Reed Park project. So I think Councilor Williams, you're working on schedule with Mark, but I'll send out the exact time, unless you already have it, of when GoCo will be here to present that award. But if anyone is interested in being a part of that, potentially receiving it and getting some photos with GoCo as well, I think that'd be great. I think they want 10 to 15 minutes to talk about just things they do and how these lottery funds are used. And Reed Park has been such a great project that they're really excited to highlight that, to the community and of course to the state as well. No workshop next week. We canceled it, but we do have our CML Regional Spring Meeting next Wednesday night. So if you are attending that, we'll see you Wednesday night at 5. and we're all going to wear matching Fruita shirts. So if you need one, holler. Just in case, you know, it's what I've been told. Yes.
So, wait, when you say matching shirts, we're not wearing those dorky like polo ones, right? We're wearing just regular t-shirts.
I think regular t-shirts. Yeah. Yeah.
Not happening. Sorry, not
Shoe taste.
happening. It looks great on Deb. It would look really dorky on
There you
me.
go.
So not doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so Fruita t-shirts, just in case anyone from Grand Junction doesn't recognize us. This is a very big group, 36 people registered. So a lot from our group, which is great, but also Grand Junction, we have people from Glenwood, Mayor of Aspen, and a few others as well. So that's always a really good event. It gives us an opportunity to share updates with everyone that attends, but also to hear a recap of the legislative session from the Cary Municipal League staff as well. So that's always very valuable. Finally, my last item is that we just received back responses to our RFP to carry the fill dirt from Redlands to the launch. The low bidder was $417,000, which is much more than we initially anticipated. So we are evaluating options and alternatives, and we're going to talk to Gavin, and we'll come back sometime next month with a staff recommendation on how to move forward. This was enough fill dirt to really cover the first phase of the property. So we do want to look at some other options, but we'll get with our partner on this and come back with a pretty solid staff recommendation. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council.
These are all.
With that, we're going to go ahead and move into council reports and action items. I will go ahead and kick this one off with item A with boards and commissions. I don't want this to be a big kind of rework of everything because I like the continuity. But James, you took over when Andrea left the museum board.
Mhm.
Would you be willing to step off of that one? I think you've been to one meeting.
Yeah.
And then Amanda, would you be willing to pick that one up?
Absolutely.
And just so you, they just sent me an email. There's going to be a board retreat. So I'll make sure you get that information.
And then Rich, right now you're on 3 boards. You're on tourism, Grand Valley Regional Transport, and the Community Development Block Grant. My preference would be to keep you on the Tourism Advisory Board. But Grand Valley Regional Transit meets the 4th Monday from 3 to 5, and then the Community Block Grant is a quarterly. Is there a time set on those, or it's just as needed?
They keep changing it, so it's not anything specific. I mean, a set date.
So my question is, would you be willing to step off of one of those? And then,
Oh, yes.
from a scheduling standpoint, Amanda, does one of those work better than the other?
Maybe the block.
Okay. Are you good with that?
Oh, yes,
All right.
most definitely.
All right. So, and then
Those real exciting ones.
I'd like to keep you on the, you picked up the FTAC, right?
No, arts and culture.
Sorry. And keep you on arts and culture. Okay. Everybody good with that? All right, great. Thank you all. And then with that, we'll move into item B, council report.
Mr. Mayor, I think we probably should have a motion on
We
the,
have to, that needs a motion?
please.
I need
Thank you,
one.
Deb.
move
I
to
would agree.
Okay, I'm not gonna fight this.
Good.
Go ahead, Amy.
I move to approve the boards and commission selections as outlined 5 minutes ago.
All right, which is record, Amanda's gonna step into the museum board and James is gonna step out of that. Rich is gonna step out of the community development block grant. You're gonna take that over and then you're gonna keep the other board.
Janine will keep arts and
Okay.
culture.
All
So
right,
moved.
Second.
we have a first and a second. Any other discussion? Anybody want to fight over this? All right, Deb?
Rich doesn't at all.
No.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Great, thank you, and thank you, everybody, for the flexibility on that, and then stepping up during the transition. Greatly appreciate it. All right, now let's move into council reports and action items. Anybody care to go first? James?
I have
Oh,
nothing.
all right,
Oh,
Rich.
good.
All right, you're done. All right, James, you're second.
I have nothing.
I have a few items. F-Works and runs a special educational meeting called Coffee Club. And this last week, we were privileged to have Ammon from our own communications department come and present. And he did a wonderful job. And he talked about social media and how businesses can utilize that effectively. A couple things from that for me that I learned. When I see Go Fruita, which is our tourism social media page, you see some repetition of certain businesses, which is frustrating because you'd like to see more. But really the reasons why we see that is because there is per se a minimum standard of content that is needed for Go Fruita to use. And so that was nice to hear from me, or for me to hear. And then I don't know if it might be nice to have staff just comment. It's Ciara, you want to come all the way up from the back? They made an announcement of how they're working on something to support businesses. Do you get enough hint to what I'm asking you to talk about? Because I think she's got a great thing to make.
Ciara Amon, Communications and Engagement Manager. And yeah, so Amon on Friday, did a great job, like Aaron said, presenting. And part of this, the presentation is around social media and kind of best practices. So we're trying to get in front of more businesses to share that information and knowledge for businesses to get out and be active on social media, collaborate more with Go Fruita, and even businesses together. So that's kind of one part of it. And then the other part is hospitality toolkits is what we're calling it. So, any downtown business, hotel, restaurants, retail can work with us, and we will go out, set up a time with the business to take photos of their business to help them get started with promotion, and they can use those photos any way they want on social media, their website. So just kind of a fun way to get them going and then make that connection with businesses.
Are we sending out like in the weekly update or something like that to the businesses community so they know how to reach out to get signed up for that?
We are scheduled for the Downtown Business Committee that the chamber hosts. We're scheduled for July to present to that group.
Perfect.
And we'll put it in the weekly update as well.
Perfect.
So
So I have a 7 a.m. meeting tomorrow with the chamber.
Yeah.
Have they been made aware?
they don't know that it's called a hospitality toolkit, but they're made aware of the idea of it. So yeah.
So it's great. Another asset that we have, do you want to talk about the Flickr account?
Oh, sure.
'Cause
Yeah.
I think that's another asset that I had no clue.
Yeah, we do. It's called like the Go Fruita Flickr account. If you just Google it, it'll pop up. But we try to add photos onto there, and anyone, residents, businesses, anyone can download those photos and use for free for their marketing promotion of Fruita. The chamber uses them a lot for different things. So yeah, that's a free resource anyone can use.
And I've had a lot of pictures from it that are from our events and as well.
Yeah.
You're consistently updating this.
Consistently, yeah. We try to get, there's some businesses, there's hiking, there's festivals, downtown Fruita. So yeah, it goes back a few years that we have photos on there for. So
So I appreciate you guys coming out to Coffee Club.
of course,
That was a great experience for us. So
need to come.
we'll have to make sure he shows up again
Yes,
next year.
for sure.
Oh, he did a really good job. So
Yes, he
please
did.
commend him for us.
Great, thank you.
Let's see.
Anything else? Should we come back?
I just want to make a comment. During public comment, someone brought up the idea of like, don't make us into Moab. And I just wanted to publicly say, like, I think we all agree that Fruita is Fruita, and we try to keep our heritage while dealing with growth and also respecting people's property rights on what they want to do with their own property. So can be challenging, but we want to keep Fruita. So more of a statement. And James, you made a comment earlier about like the mandated housing. We don't have a state required mandated housing, do we?
We opted up for it. It wasn't mandated by the.
But we
state.
accept, yeah, that's where I was getting at. It's like,
That terminology.
no, I just wanted to make sure that I'm remembering it right, that we voluntarily have
Yes.
established affordable housing units in our community. Shannon, can you just kind of give a brief overview of that position?
Before you do that too, isn't a part of that if we didn't though, and we didn't get to a certain amount, they would come in and do it, correct?
Yeah, so it comes down to a lot of eligibility for grant funding. So the Prop 123 was a statewide ballot initiative that was passed a couple years ago that earmarks certain state funds for affordable housing projects throughout Colorado. So when council decided to opt in, we said that we will work towards getting at least 133 units over the next several years of affordable housing units in Fruita to become eligible for state housing grants. So we already have 50, the 50 from the Fruita Muse count towards that. And then as we were talking about earlier, the ones from the Oaks that are under that 100% will count towards that as well. So that just allows us access to additional funds like the land banking grant that we just got for property by the Fruita Muse. That's one of those funds that we're eligible for because we opted in. We're working towards this number, the 133. So yeah, we're in definitely a great spot because, some of these projects like Dan was saying, I mean, they take years and years to come to fruition. So to already have 50 on the books and more to come, I think is really encouraging.
Shannon?
Yeah, I think is it 3 years? Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate that update. The last one is I happened to walk by an employee appreciation lunch last week, and it was very well attended. And I got a last minute invite since I was walking by. Steve Martinez cooks a mean hot dog. But no, I think the point for bringing it up is, oh, you're back there. Sorry, I didn't have an appetite to try a hamburger. But no, really what I wanted, why I bring that up is it was nice to sit with the employees and they are good people. Nice. We've done a really good job at establishing policies and I'm blanking the word out, but projects to really attain good employees and to treat them fairly. And you can see that because I sat with a lot of the guys that were at the waste reclamation facility, and they love their job. They know that it's not the most glorious, but they love their job, and it was great to just see their love for Fruita, love for working for the city and being part of the community. It was nice to just see some of the fruits of the labors that council and staff have put in directly towards employees' benefits and things like that. So, and retention. So thank you. It was great.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Janine?
Yes, I do want to follow up with a public comment on plain language and if we have plans to, or are we already working towards that sort of goal? Or is that something we want to work towards?
The model traffic code, so we had to bring it back to council because the state has asked us to include language that says that the additions or modifications do not apply to U.S. or state highways. And I can bring that up. Yeah. U.S. highways, interstates. CDOT required that language in our model traffic code. So that one was just kind of descriptive of where to find the additional information. Some of these things, there can be I don't want to say a challenge with it, but they are laws and they are regulations that our municipal court and our police officers do have to carry out. So they are written in a way.
Sure.
And am I getting too far off from your question or?
No, I mean, that's very specific.
Yeah.
That is what was brought up, but I think it was brought up also another time in a more broad.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like even our proclamations, the whereas.
Oh, yeah.
Which there's history to that. And so I understand that, but then also like the mayor even referred to or maybe he was the commissioner at the time, having to, diagram.
Right.
Which
everybody's
But those are
learning.
contracts, that's not.
Yeah.
That, I just wanted clarification, like,
Yeah.
is that, where does the plain language need to be where does it fit and where does it not make sense?
Right.
I'm gonna ask a question on
Yeah,
top of that,
yep.
which is when I went through and read that legislation, I thought that legislation was specifically around state laws.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't
Right.
go towards that, but I think if the specific language that was quoted was around state, am I correct?
Yes, that is correct. And, you know, if you read state statutes, it's arguable whether or not those are in plain language or not. So I think it's very difficult because, you know, sometimes legalese is necessary because there's certain terms of art that mean certain things. And so it's, you've got to put that, you know, put it in there like that because that's what makes it work. And you know, we can certainly, when we're drafting city resolutions moving forward, kind of look at it through that lens. But when it comes to something like the model traffic code that the city does not write, we're adopting it. You know, it's a form, then, you know, we're adopting it as it's written. And if staff were to try to rewrite that and come up with the same thing, we'd no longer be adopting the model traffic code. We'd be creating our own code.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you both.
But even with our city communications efforts, I think there's always room to improve. So we can always work towards that as well. Yeah. Yeah.
And then now that the school year is almost over, how has the traffic, again, based on another public comment, how has the traffic around the middle school and the high school? Was that impacted with the middle school moving into that area versus because it's added an
Yeah.
extra grade
Right.
to that. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question.
Based on that.
Yeah. Let me, if you don't mind, I'll probably reach out to the schools and also a few in our engineering department and probably follow up with that. There's definitely been impacts, especially with 19 Road being closed for some of that time. So we anticipate seeing that. But yeah, let's see if we can get some more additional information on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Also,
Can I ask
oh,
a quick
yes.
Question
Yeah.
to that.
Yes, please.
And of course, like school's out tomorrow, so that we're not going to have any of those issues until school starts. And then 19 Road is opening up the plan is what, October, November?
I don't see John here.
So it's not another school.
I think it's sooner. End of July. Yeah.
Oh, so like,
Yeah.
so tomorrow, all
October.
those temporary traffic changes that the school has put out in front of them is done tomorrow forever.
We'll have to double check that no left-hand turn coming out of the Fruita Middle School. That's not something that we enforce, but it is something that they have added as part of their circulation planning. So we'll have to double check what their plans are for next year. But yeah, we do hope that having 19 Road open, hopefully in time for next school year, will alleviate some of those issues. But yeah, I can definitely get back to you on that. Yeah.
I piggyback on your piggyback.
This is starting to get heavy.
Yeah. So when there are concerns on traffic, I know we
Mhm.
have a traffic committee.
We do, yeah.
What is the process if people have concerns about something with traffic to get it? You know, I mean, coming to us and then us going to you, what's the kind of direct route?
Yeah, usually if someone does report any potential traffic concerns, whether it's to our engineering department or police department, we start off with our STEP program, which starts off with just initial kind of fact finding and data gathering. And then from there, we can determine if we need to make any necessary changes after that, but it's evaluated as part of our traffic committee. So a great example, the one we just added on Paber, we heard, people speeding on Paber, so can we reduce the speed limits? We added that traffic calming feature. I think it's right at Paber at Sycamore, maybe just a little bit west of that, to try to narrow the road, make sure that people don't feel as comfortable when they're driving down that, so they'll slow down. And I think that's been a good addition to that area as well. And probably there's some more places we can do things similar to that. But usually if someone does have any concerns, they can relay it to definitely to staff, and we could start with our STEP process, which, put out the police trailer out there, get some data. If that data, if we need more data, we can put out the tubes and have that actual speed data. And that can kind of help us with our decision making, what we think works best after that. The 18 and a half road on the south side of the interstate, we have been patrolling that more since then. I see the mayor's smiling. So we've had several more stops. We actually issued our first ticket out there, 55 and a 35. It was a resident of Adobe Falls. So yeah, we're still in between shifts. We're still trying to, provide a police presence so people do slow down. But once we get that data back from our engineering department, we can come back and say this warrants this change or this may not warrant this change, et cetera. So yeah, they can start with staff. I mean, they can always start with council as well. I actually think on 18. Yeah. Yeah.
Staff and the council. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Ironically, the HOA for on the south side, they reached out to Rich first. And then that's when we started out, looking into this like a while ago, but then they weren't maybe happy with the progress we were making. So then came and spoke before the council. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's back to me. Yes, I have a few more things. Shannon did not mention in
Oh, yeah.
his city manager's report that our budget one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So good job, Shannon.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. That's really a team effort. Yeah. 3 years in a row. I know this is going to break everyone's heart in this room, especially council. They did tell us we have to shorten the budget lengthwise. I know.
Difficult to read.
Like by how much?
Shocking.
Yeah, like it's
Like
not
what auditor ever
obnoxious.
says shorten it?
They said shorten it.
What's the
Yeah.
parameters? Because we're at like 400 pages.
Yeah,
now, right?
are
Are they saying like 200?
I think that's the goal. And there's a lot of I've been creating the budget for several years. There's a lot of information. A lot of it is redundant. So we have our overall summary, but then we have our fund summaries, then our department summaries, then our program summaries, and everything else. So there's some room to improve where the information will not change. It's just how often you see it will likely change. So that will be good. It's going to be a challenge.
Wait, font. Problem solved.
Oh, yes.
Do we just have an appendix to pull out the 200 that?
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. More
Just have it not as
information.
the official
Yeah.
budget, but supplementary appendix.
There you go. Yeah.
No, we appreciate everything you
Yeah.
do with
Oh,
the
yeah.
budget, and it's wonderful, even at 400 pages, because
Fantastic.
I'd rather over communicate a little bit than under communicate at all. And I don't think we're overly communicating, but
Yeah, nobody
Keep
can
getting the
accuse
award.
us of under communicating, right? Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's definitely a lot of work and a lot of teamwork as well. So yeah, great job to our staff and everyone else involved. Yeah.
Yep, still going. Speaking of the Arts and Culture Board, the Fruita Fourth Friday starts this Friday, so that's happening 5 to 8 in Mulberry Plaza. And then also they are putting out the call for artists for the new sculptures that will be installed downtown. They're keeping it to just 5 still again this next year because they're going to be adding a new feature, which I cannot think of the word right now, but it's a QR code that you scan and it will be the actual artist's voice that you then will hear talking about the piece of art that's there. So that costs not a lot, way less than you might think, but still, so they're keeping just the 5, not expanding it, but putting out the call and then deciding in August and then installing mid-September. So
are we doing
that's exciting.
Are they going to come to us for more pedestals?
So I don't think that they will need any new ones this time around because there's 5 now and they may be talking about raise possibly because I think they might be talking about raising them a little bit, but it will depend on what art's selected to do that.
I'm just excited to
Yep.
start seeing it
Yes.
expand.
Yeah.
Because they've
So
talked
they
about
started with 3 and now it's 5. And since they're implementing this new little piece, just keeping it at 5. But there's definite talks in the future to keep expanding and go over to the south side because there's also a pedestal already over there by the dog park.
And we're adjusting the process for
That's right.
businesses.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, so just exactly what we all talked about, when we had that workshop, the businesses that will, have an art piece, near them will be included in the voting process. They'll have one vote, just like everybody else on the panel has, but yes, they will now be included
Right.
in that process. And then this is just ahead of the game, but it was pastels in the park last year, but it's being moved now down Aspen Street, and being part of August 4th Friday. And so the chalk, I don't know what they're gonna call it now because it's not gonna be in the park, but the artwork and chalk and all of that's gonna be happening again and different.
Where are they gonna, down Aspen Street,
Yeah,
so in
in
front of the businesses? Oh, cool.
Yep, super cool. So
Awesome.
that is actually all.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't rain this time when you're doing the test.
know. They talked about that being lovely too, so I guess they're game for anything.
Not a lot to report. I did get to go on a bicycle ride with Shannon for the mayor, kind of get together and informal talk kind of stuff. And I would like to encourage more people from the community to come out. Not that I don't like to have Shannon all to myself, but it would have been more engaging, more fun to have more people along. And we took a tour around, went and saw the sheep, and what an awesome job they're doing. So just super impressed with that. And then I attended after hours with the Chamber of Commerce, and that was a lot of fun to get to meet a lot of people. But just so many fun things to pick from. It's hard to figure out what you want to go to try to hit everything and meet everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially, well done. Amy.
I have another kudos for Shannon and Henry. They presented at our AMGD Associated Members for Growth and Development meeting, and they did a fantastic job, which was no surprise. Fruita gets a lot of love from AMGD, which is it's really fun. And I think they actually used the words Grand Junction more than they did Fruita because they kept comparing. Us. But Shannon and Henry both did a really fantastic job of presenting to them and answering their questions. So I always feel like I'm like, oh, those are my people. And then I wondered if we could get an update like on if anything's happening with the skate park.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's actually getting worse, and I'm
Oh.
worried about like with school being out, that situation might, escalate.
Yeah, so we've asked Ed in between calls to definitely go down there, and we've had a few calls recently that actually resulted in enforceable action too. So action is being taken. I think now that school's out, there'll probably be much more FaceTime with that as well, so that'll be good. But we've had some calls recently where they did, issue whether it was a warning or a ticket or something else for that, and hopefully more people being out there kind of throughout the day will be able to kind of contact them and continue to work on that. But yeah.
And what would be like the advisable, how should we advise citizens to handle that? Like, should we be asking them to call PD? There's a lot of concerns being expressed.
Yeah,
A lot of people
yeah.
saying they don't even want to be at the park.
Right.
So I'm just wondering like what the best, I haven't really, told people to do anything because
Oh, sure.
what the appropriate
Yeah.
kind of action is there. And I don't know if, you want to maybe chat. Chief Crowd.
Yeah, we definitely can, best practice, and especially with any potential incidents, especially some we've seen have seemed pretty severe. So if you hear something, see something, definitely say it and report that. There are some things that unfortunately I think will not be enforceable depending on, the severity of it. But, we can continue to try to provide public education, do those proactive kind of check-ins and, just go visit when we can. But yeah, if there ever is anything that kind of rise to where they think there needs to be some sort of response, we definitely encourage that. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's all I got.
All right, great. Real quick, I don't have a whole bunch. I went to the CMU graduation, the morning one. That's the first college graduation I've ever been to. I didn't show up at mine.
No.
So like, it was kind of cool to see that. That was interesting. The amount of first-time graduates at that university, when they all stood up was really very, very impressive. I've had a few community conversations. The block.
Oh,
party
yeah.
trailer. People love the concept. Have we had anybody call and ask yet?
Yeah, so we're finalizing policies. And just a quick go back before I forget, we had 673 responses to our community survey last time, so we've exceeded that, which is great. So hopefully this last PSA, public service announcement, will kind of get us higher than that. So yeah, we're still waiting on, I think, 2 items for the block party trailer, but when we had our wellness barbecue last week, we actually had it on site. So we were able to play some of the yard games. It comes with chairs, et cetera. So I think it'll probably be done sometime in the next couple of weeks, and people can rent it out from there. We're going to have kind of like not a ribbon cutting, but some sort of event at the Thursday night concert, kind of promoting it and highlighting it as a new community amenity. But yeah, looks great. The games are fun. Some of them are very, very frustrating, but it was fun. Yeah.
Is it because you can't win? Is that why it's frustrating?
Oh man, I had a partner, Lieutenant Nick Peck.
Way to
Man,
blame it on somebody else.
we could talk more about that if we need to.
Stop there. It's not throw-
We did win. We did. It was just not pretty, right?
I'm going to talk about trying not to throw people under the bus, Shannon.
He would be the first one to say it.
I did stop by the Fruita Lou, hear the new voiceover over the weekend. Yeah, I could. But the bathroom sinks seem to be a challenge. And my understanding is we've just replaced them.
We just replaced one, so I'm not sure which one you used. The other one's also due for replacement, so it'll be replaced.
So looking
this
at it, I
week.
looked at both sinks. The one on the
Okay.
left is in better shape, which
Yep.
means the new one, the one
Yep.
on the right is in pretty rough shape.
Yeah, that's the one that's due for replacement.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Those are those under warranties?
They are.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Eastern one, it was broken, vandalized. But yeah, they were very quick to warranty and send us the new sinks. So yeah, I think we have a 3-year warranty on those.
Is that one of those things that makes sense to keep a sink on hand?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
That's what you covered most everything else, so thank you. Tag team on that one. All right. With that, go ahead and close out council reports and action items, and we're going to move into executive session to discuss, for discussion, possible action to consider motion to reading the wrong thing. I need a
Mr. Mayor, I
motion.
move to convene an executive session for the city manager's check-in, a personnel matter pursuant to CRS section 24-6-4024F5.
First and a
Thank-
second.
Thank you, Amy. Just if you could add to that, who's coming into that?
It will be council and our city manager.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, so we have a first and a second.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Quigley, Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
and Counselor Purser.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Great. And then for the record, it is 8:23. We're going to take a 7-minute bio break. Everybody gets an extra 2-3 minutes. All right, see you guys back here at